maybe wait till Nate gets back. You ready? Okay.
Page 4 o'clock, so call the meeting to order. Whitko Board of Finance meeting. This meeting is a meeting of the school board and public for the purpose of conducting school corporation business. It is not to be considered a public community meeting. If everyone would please rise and say the pledge of allegiance. Recognize the news media, Teresa Carano. I think that's probably it. Election of the Board of Finance President. We'll take any nominations for that position at this time. Are there any other nominations? All those in favor, say aye. Opposed? I guess I continue then. Okay, election of the Board of Finance Vice President. Is there a second? Are there any other nominations? All those in favor, say aye. Opposed? Election of the Board of Finance Secretary. Is there a second? Are there any other nominations? All those in favor of Annette, say aye. Opposed? Review of the finance conditions of school corporations. Dr. Penrod?
Thank you. We're going to start with the what's commonly referred to as DUAB, which is the Distressed Unit Appeals Board. And these are the fiscal and qualitative indicators as we are required to do to present by law. This is on the DUAB website. And this first slide here is, let's see. Okay, the first slide gives some kind of basic information, just some profile type stuff. Our last audit was December 1 of 2020. Audits are there on the State Board of Accounts website. Also, I should point out right at the top there, it says School Corporation ID 4455. We'll see that quite a bit. That's our corporation number from the IDOE, so anytime you see that, that's our corporation. Our 2020 and 2021 student count, which is our ADM, is 1,136. And then we'll in a minute. Our net assessed value, which is also commonly or sometimes referred to as certified net assessed value, which is CNAV, and that'll be important for budget discussions in the future, is $498,748,293. And then the state does an estimated population in our district, and they estimate that population in 2018 at 11,149. This next page, the CNAV, the NAV there, is our certified net assessed valuation. And you can see historically there at the bottom, we've got the numbers the numbers as numbers. At the top, we have the graph there that shows our increase. Had a slight decrease from 2017 to 2018, and another slight decrease from 18 to 19. 2020, then it jumps back up to 498. And as you can imagine, this fluctuates. This is basically the amount of money our district's property is worth, so to speak. So if you add up everybody's property in the district, subtract all of their deductions that they get or the credits that they get, this is the net assessed valuation. And so this can fluctuate based on a lot of different things, home values, agricultural values, an acre of land tends to fluctuate. And so all of that plays into this, and that's why you see these dips and then the jump back up. I should stop. If there are any questions on any of these slides, please feel free to jump in. Here's the demographics we talked about on that first slide. You can see the numbers at the bottom, the graph on the top, and we have free and reduced lunch. Generally has been in that 44.5% area. Back you see in 2019, 44.3, 2018, 45, but generally in that area. Our special ed rate percentage continues to climb a little bit, 19.2 in 2018, 19.5 in 2019, and then 21.2 in 2020. And our English language learners for the last 3 years now has been pretty steady. Prior to that, it was quite a bit lower, but now it's kind of leveled off there. This is our estimated population. This comes from state data. To be honest with you, I don't know who they contract to do this, but this is what the District Unit Appeals Board sends out to us. And so you can see in 2018, our population of school-age children was 2150, total child population at 2930, and our population at 11,149. The next slide is ADM history, and so again, we've got the numbers at the bottom, chart at the top, and you can see 2018, 1348, 2019, 1321, 2020, 1287 and 1284, and then 1236. That is lost with the pandemic, a lot of other corporations in a similar situation. Also something to point out, if you look in 2014 through 2017, and then again in 2020, you can see and also 18 and 19, there were 2 different counts that year, or in those years. Back in 2012 and 13, it was 1 count in September, the fall count, and then the legislature decided to do 2 counts instead, and so we have a spring in-person count on that third line down in 2014 through 2017. Then they went back to a single count for funding, but a second spring count for information only. And so you can see the information only there at the bottom, in person but not counted toward tuition support. And then in 2020, went back to counting toward tuition support. And so in 2021 will be the same thing, barring any changes legislatively. That's a February 1st or 2nd date. And so I don't foresee anything happening in the General Assembly prior to that, so we plan on submitting our count date early in February. Our fund balances at as of December 31 of each year, and we'll get a little more specific with this in a minute on a different presentation, but you can see the capital funds, debt funds on the right, education fund, and then the conglomerate of federal funds, general fund, local funds, et cetera. So you can kind of see our balances there. Once we get into 18 and 19, not a whole lot of change. The education fund on the 19 side, you'll see is green. That took the place of the general fund, so the blue line disappears in 19, and the green line appears in 19. The next one is an annual deficit and surplus, and so we can read this here. The indicator provides a comparison of revenue to expenditures on a calendar year basis, and that obviously would show if we have an operating surplus or deficit. The fund balance is also listed here on the gray line, the kind of dotted line that goes across, and that's to assist us in identifying situations where the school corporation utilizes existing fund balance to fund expenditures, and that in this case would not be the case. You can see our starting in you can see our gray line starting to trend up. You can see the yellow on the top side of the bar, which means we don't have a deficit, we have a surplus. In 2015 and 16, we did have a deficit, and then that slight increase there in 2017, a little bit more in 18, a little bit more in 19. And the purpose of these indicators of this board, this Distress Unit Appeals Board, is for so the state can kind of keep an eye on what's going on with school corporations. So if you remember right, a couple years ago, Gary kind of found themselves in some dire straits with their finances, and then another corporation in central Indiana did as well. So this board was created to stop schools or help stop schools from doing that. So there's a large group of people that get together and decide which of these indicators they're going to use and which ones are important. And then that's what, and it's constantly changing. I think this presentation used to have maybe 12 or 13 slides, maybe even 15, and now it's 8. So they've changed, that group has changed that a little bit. It is a state agency though, and they continue to work on that, continuously work on that. Next one we have our fund balance as percent of expenditures. So this is useful. Like, I'm not saying this would happen, but in the event of an emergency where the state could not pay us our tuition support for the month, we would have to rely on our cash reserves. And so this is basically a function of our cash reserves. So this fund balance as a percent of expenditures, and you can see in 17 at 29.4, 18 at 36.3, and now 19 at 57.5. Revenue by type, you can see that's broken down there. At the bottom there on the base is local tax revenue. The blue line, which we don't have any, is an operating referendum. The green is debt service. The purplish color is other local revenue. The blue, state revenue, and then federal revenue at the top. And you can see that the bulk of our money comes in at the state revenue level, and then property tax after that. And you can see that the kind of the trend as it goes from 2012 to 2019. And then this one's pretty easy. This is an operating referendum revenue as percent of total revenue. We do not have an operating revenue, and so we have 0% of our total revenue. We have to do an investment report here for this particular meeting, and we put our interest in our education fund. Last year in 2020, we generated $48,201.97 in interest earned. And then we have to review the Whitko investment policy as well. That is 6144. That's a pretty standard policy, and but you're welcome to click on that, and that kind of directs how we're supposed to do our investing. It keeps in mind that we are a public entity, and we can't take risks like maybe some private entities do. We can't invest in something that is really possible that we lose all of our capital or anything like that. And then it also talks about if we ever want to switch banks, how we switch banks and things like that. That's the end of that one. Any questions on that one? I do have another one to go over real quick. This one is not required by the law, but I thought it was good. It'd be a good time to look this over. If we start with the one that says end-of-year financial reports, and we look at our Kosciuszko tax rates, these came from the 2021 budget order, which comes from the DLGF. The DLGF is the Department of Local Government Finance, and I put tax rates in here of our neighbors in Kosciuszko County, and you can see where those are broken down in the chart. The gray would be a referendum. The blue is debt service. Orange is operations, and then the line at the top is the total. Wawasee is a little bit of a different animal because they have a tremendously high assessed valuation in their with their property, their lake property in particular, and so their rate won't ever get real high because it's capped with some forms of the state or from the DLGF. It's capped at a certain. The levy would be capped, and so the rate would kind of artificially be capped as well. But you can see that we did get our rate lower than one school in Kosciuszko County. If we move over to Whitley County, Smith Green and again, this comes from the 2021 budget order from DLGF for Whitley County. Smith Green at 1.10, Whitko at 10756, and then Columbia City at 10314. I put a note there. I don't know if you can see that on your printout or not, but I put a note on the electronic part that we shared with you over the weekend, or over the week here, that the 10314 at Whitley County includes some pension debt, and that pension rate is 1.0155. And so what that does, I didn't make a new column for it because it's tax neutral. And so once they don't have levy, or once they don't owe money on their pension bonds anymore, that money, that rate goes back into most likely operations, but it's kind of their choice of where they put it. And so I didn't create a new column for that, or a new row for that, just because their total tax rate is 10314, whether, and then once that pension rate goes away, it'll probably bump up their operations rate. So that's where they are, and you can see the chart there at the bottom to kind of show that. On the next tab over, just a dot graph here of what our general fund or education fund as beginning in 2019 looked like, and you can see at the top the actual the numbers as far as the balance goes, and then you can see at the bottom, 2018 gained a little bit, 2019 a little bit, or quite a bit, and then 2020 quite a bit more. Our operations, which is funded with mostly local property tax, same type of thing on the next tab there. Looking at the same pattern as far as numbers go. This one held a little bit closer, and the chart there shows the same thing. We're about the same, about $3,800 less in 2020 than we were in 2019. And then that final tab is the rainy day fund. We were at a little over $338,000 in 2018 on December 31. 2019 we're right at $1 million, and 2020 we left that at $1 million as well. So before turn this over to Mr. Patrick again, any questions regarding the financial state of our district? Okay, so there are no action that needs to be taken there. That's just a review, so I'll turn that back over to Mr. Patrick.
Do I have a motion at this point to adjourn this part of the board meeting? Second? All those in favor? Meeting adjourned.
So now we have the Whitko School Board organizational meeting. This immediately follows the Board of Finance meeting. And since there is no president right now, I will call the meeting to order. Our first order of business, though, is to elect a president who can then take over the rest of this meeting. And so I will open the floor for nominations, and then I will, after we hear all those, we'll close the floor and then ask for discussion and eventually a vote.
I'd like to nominate Georgia.
So Mr. Patrick has nominated Ms. Studebaker, and Mr. Worstler has nominated Mrs. Tenney. Any other nominations? Okay, we'll close the floor for nominations. And any discussion? Okay, so at this time we will vote. We have to vote twice here. So if you, let me make sure I get everybody. So if you can kind of maybe hold your hand up a little bit. Let's vote on Lynn Studebaker for president first. Okay. And let's vote on Georgia Tenney for president second. Okay. So we have Lynn Studebaker as our president for 2021 by a 3-2 margin. And I will turn that over to you to run the balance of the meeting.
Do I have a motion to elect board vice president?
second, so.
It is moved and seconded that Bill Patrick be elected school board vice president. Is there any discussion? It has been moved and seconded that Bill Patrick be nominated, be the school board vice president. Is there any discussion? Seeing that there is none, we will move to vote. All in favor of Bill Patrick being vice president, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the ayes prevail, and Bill Patrick is vice president of Whitko School Board. Do I have a nomination for school board secretary?
I'd like to nominate Georgia.
I nominate Annette Arnold.
Any others? Okay, so we have Annette Arnold and Georgia Tenney. Both have been seconded, so we have to do these one at a time. Okay, go. Have a nomination for Annette. Do I have? We need to vote on Annette first, so all in favor of Annette for secretary, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
I think you probably should, just to get it on the record.
Okay, and for Georgia Tenney, for secretary, we have a nomination and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And Annette had 3 votes, so she will be Whitko School Board secretary. Next item on the agenda is scheduling of regular meeting dates, times, and location. Do I have a motion for regular meeting dates, time, and location?
I move that we have the board meetings at the regular time and locations as listed.
Which is at Whitko World Campus Auditorium, the 3rd Monday of each month, except for October 11th instead of October 18th due to fall break, and December 13th, 2021 instead of December 20 due to winter break. Do I have a second?
So we need a second to get that to a vote, or get it to discussion.
Is there any discussion?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, so we have a motion and a second to have regular school board meetings the 3rd Monday of the month at Memorial Campus Auditorium until further notice, except for October 11th and December, instead of October 18th, and December 13th instead of December 20th
So this, just to make sure we're all on the same page, this is the, hang on, I just shut my thing. This is the list that we send legal advertisements to, that we send, there's some radio and TV on here that we might send our delays and cancellations to, that kind of stuff. It's, obviously anybody's welcome to come to any meeting, but these are the ones that if you approve this, again, these are the ones that we have to send stuff to. I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah.